Well, why don't we start at the beginning, if you don't mind? When did you enter the service?
Uh, I joined the Navy on August the 6th of 1941, 3 weeks before my 18th birthday, what they called a minority cruise.
And what made you decide to join?
Well, there, in the 3 weeks I would have been eligible for draft.
So you figured you'd.
So I figure it would be my choice, not theirs.
And where did they send you to do your
Uh,
training?
Newport, Rhode Island.
And
From there, went to Great Lakes, Illinois for a month for schooling, and then to the Ford Motor Plant in Dearborn, Michigan for aviation mechanic training.
so aviation mechanics. Had you done a lot of mechanical work
Well,
as a kid, or?
the, my whole family was mechanical.
Okay. And did you grow up in Wyoming, or?
I'm originally from Montgomery County, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And is that where you were when you entered the Navy?
Yeah, of course. Well, before I went in the Navy, I lived only in Montgomery and Berks County.
You said your whole family was mechanical. Did they? Was that their business or their
No,
professional work?
no. We just were mechanical inclined and worked at it. So
So when you got sent to do the aviation mechanics, was that something that you were interested in, or did they just sort of say, "Hey, you and you go. You're going to do this"?
well, they gave us an aptitude test and figured out from that what they wanted to train us for.
And what did you think of that? What did you think of aviation mechanics?
Uh, well, it was real interesting there at the Ford Motor Plant because they were building uh, engines for Pratt and Whitney. So from there, transferred to Norfolk, Virginia. Some of the first work I did there was installing radar on submarine hunters,
Hmm.
the old PBY 5s.
That must have been fairly interesting. I mean, that was newer technology, right, at the time?
Hmm?
That was fairly new technology at the
Oh,
time,
yeah.
right? So,
Oh, yeah.
had you ever seen anything like that? I
No.
mean, no.
And I haven't ever seen it since because some of those antennas we put on were 8 and 10 feet long, just bolted to the outside of the aircraft.
And were they fairly secretive about, what they were doing? And I mean, you guys probably couldn't, tell family members or, what you were working on.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I remember one time there where we were working on that radar. There was an admiral was came in on an infection tour, and the guy on the gate made him get out of the car, his car, to be recognized. When he found out who he had, he got all shook up, and the admiral praised him for his how alert he was.
So, did they train you specifically for installing radar, or was that kind of on the job? You had to
That was more or less just on the job. Then after that, then I got into armament test.
And what was that like? What were they?
Well, we built gun mounts for new equipment. We worked on some of the armament. Tested it out, and ever see a 50 caliber machine gun get so hot it bent the barrel?
No, I haven't seen that.
Well, that's how they tested them, to find out how reliable they were. They just fire them until they practically disintegrated. 50 cal and 20 millimeters both.
Now, where they had you building this stuff, was it on a base, a military base,
It was a Norfolk Naval Air Station, where we were working.
And were there a lot of people doing the work that you were doing, or was it kind of a smaller group?
Well, we had there in that testing unit. Well, we had armament tests. We had mechanical tests. Different units in maintenance for, and a lot of birds that nobody else has ever seen, because when they captured a bird somewhere, we'd wind up with one of them to check it out against our own Messerschmitts, Jap Zeros. We worked on all of them.
Now, for you, were there any of them that kind of stuck out to you, or that kind of, made you say, "Wow, that's different"?
The birds I was most impressed with was our Grumman fighters, the F4F, F6F, F4F Wildcat, F6F Hellcat. They were, and F4U, I forget who made it. Marines flew hell out of them out the Pacific, but those three birds are what stopped the Japanese.
Now, was your unit specifically the mechanical testing, or
I was basically, although I'd gone to school for mechanics, I was basically sheet metal repair. Like I say, we made gun mounts and bomb racks and.
So, would they take damaged pieces to you, and you would fix them, or what? What were your kind of daily?
It wasn't so much a repair; it was experimental. So some of it actually was experimental manufacture.
Oh, okay. So, what kind of experimental things did you work on? That must have been
Well,
pretty interesting.
basically gun mounts and uh, bomb delivery systems.
So, what was experimental about them? The way that they.
Well, we'd make them, and then we'd have to test them to see if they worked right.
Oh, okay. Were they new designs then?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
some of them we designed right there in the shop, piece by piece.
Oh.
Didn't have any we didn't have prints to work for most of it.
Wow. Was that difficult? To sort
Uh,
of come up with, or no?
well, we did have a few failures, uh, but it was work that I did enjoy.
Did you have any successes that were implemented in the field?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We'd well, one that I remember I worked on was a gun mount that we put in the nose of a B-24 with twin 50s. That was successful.
Mm-hmm. So, was that new? The idea of putting this gun mount in the nose, or what was the part
Well,
that you guys had to kind of create yourself?
well, it was there for strafing. Basically, it was equipment for strafing, especially submarine.
Mm-hmm.
Because say a 50 caliber could penetrate a sub.
Now, what were some of the other projects that you worked on that you remember?
Hmm. Offhand, I could.
Or maybe some of the other ones that were successful.
Well, I know one thing that wasn't successful. We made a cluster of rockets. We mounted, I think it was 7 rockets. We mounted in a circle, and we couldn't ever get them synchronized so they'd all fire at the same time.
So, when you guys would come up with a new sort of invention, I guess, how did you test them? Did you have a special facility?
Well, we could mount an aircraft and take it out to the firing range, or
And did you guys get to do that yourselves?
no.
No, you had other people.
That was the gunnery department that did that.
So then they would come back to you and report
Right.
the success or failure. Yeah. So whatever happened with that, the 7 rockets in a circle? What did they tell you when it didn't work?
It went into Chesapeake Bay.
Where were they supposed to go?
In the air.
Now, would they give you specific, I guess, tasks like come up with something that'll work in the nose of this B-24, or
Well,
build something that?
they told us what we wanted, and we got together with our moon, figured out what we could do, and we did that one, and it was successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, how many people were kind of working with you? Would you work on these projects in groups, or was it just a lot of people getting involved?
Well, usually 1 or 2 of us would be working together. I think we had about 15 people there in the shop that I worked out of.
Do you remember when they would bring in some of the, the Japanese or the German?
Uh, they they'd be on base before we ever found out about them.
Sure. Would they take you to see it then, or?
Well, we'd get it right there in the squadron to work on.
What was that like to see, some of those
Well,
crafts?
it was interesting comparing them because, well, you take the Jap Zero. It was faster and more maneuverable than our aircraft, but it didn't. It wasn't built to take the beating that the Grumman's were.
Right.
Messerschmitt was a fine bird. That was a good bird.
What was so good about it?
Well, it was just a good combat aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
British Spitfire was a good combat aircraft.